The darkness of space stretched endlessly, a silent void dotted with distant stars. In a remote corner of the galaxy, far from any known trade routes or inhabited planets, a small alien spacecraft drifted helplessly. Its once shining hull was scorched and battered, evidence of a long and harrowing journey. Inside, a family huddled together, their hope fading with each passing day. Kayla, the mother, clutched her youngest child, Lyra, close to her chest while Joran, her mate, tried in vain to repair the damaged systems. Their eldest, Torin, sat quietly nearby, his wide eyes reflecting both fear and determination. For weeks, they had sent out distress signals, pleading for help from anyone who might hear them. At first, there had been replies other ships, members of their own species, even representatives from neighboring civilizations. But one by one, those voices fell silent. Promises of aid turned into excuses, then cold indifference. The family was left alone, abandoned by their own kind during a time of crisis. Supplies were running low, and the life support systems on their ship were failing. It seemed as though no one cared about their fate. Unbeknownst to them, light years away on Earth, a group of humans was monitoring deep space transmissions. Dr. Emily Carter, a soft-spoken scientist with a passion for understanding the unknown, adjusted the dials on her equipment. Her fingers moved deftly over the controls, fine-tuning the frequency until she caught something unusual, a faint, rhythmic signal that didn't match anything recorded before. She leaned closer, her brow furrowing in concentration. "Ryan," she called out softly, turning to the man seated at the adjacent console. "Do you hear this?" Captain Ryan Hayes glanced up from his work. A tall, broad-shouldered man with graying temples, he exuded calm authority. He listened intently as Emily played the signal again. The sound was haunting, almost like a song, yet unmistakably artificial. "It's not random interference," he said after a moment. "This is deliberate." Together, they analyzed the transmission, isolating fragments of what appeared to be coordinates mixed with repetitive patterns. Though the message lacked clear language, its tone conveyed urgency. Someone or something was calling for help. Emily felt a pang of excitement, mingled with apprehension. Humanity had only recently begun venturing beyond its solar system, and encounters with extraterrestrials were rare. This could be their chance to make contact, not just as observers, but as participants in the wider universe. Word of the discovery spread quickly through the facility where Emily and Ryan worked. The team gathered around a large table, poring over data and debating the implications. Some voiced concerns about the risks involved. Others argued that ignoring the signal would go against everything humanity claimed to stand for. Among the skeptics was Alex Dawson, the facility's top pilot. With his rugged features and quick wit, he wasn't one to mince words. "We don't know what we're dealing with here," he pointed out. "Could be friendly, could be hostile. Either way, it's dangerous." Samantha Brooks, the medic assigned to the potential mission, chimed in. "Dangerous or not, we can't just turn our backs if someone's in trouble," she said firmly. Her warm smile contrasted with the seriousness of her tone. "Isn't that why we're here? To explore, to learn, and maybe even to help." Emily nodded in agreement. "If we ignore this, we're no better than whoever left them stranded," she added. "Besides, think of what we could gain from making contact. Knowledge, technology, alliances, it's worth the risk." After hours of discussion, Ryan made the final decision. They would respond to the signal and investigate. Preparations began immediately. The Odyssey, a sleek spacecraft designed for long-range missions, was ready for launch. Supplies were loaded, systems checked, and contingency plans reviewed. Despite the challenges ahead, the crew couldn't shake the feeling that this mission was more than just another assignment. It was an opportunity to prove that humanity could rise above fear and selfishness. Days later, the Odyssey launched into the vastness of space, carrying a small but dedicated team: Ryan, Emily, Alex, and Samantha. As they traveled toward the source of the signal, the mood aboard the ship shifted between anticipation and unease. None of them knew what awaited them, but they pressed on, driven by curiosity and a shared sense of purpose. Finally, after weeks of travel, they reached the coordinates embedded in the transmission. Before them loomed the alien vessel, its damaged form floating silently against the backdrop of stars. The sight was both awe-inspiring and heartbreaking. Through the viewport, they could see signs of neglect and decay, the result of prolonged isolation. Ryan gave the order to approach cautiously, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. As the Odyssey drew nearer, the crew attempted to establish communication. At first, there was no response. Then slowly a reply came, a series of melodic tones unlike anything they'd ever heard. It was beautiful, almost hypnotic yet impossible to decipher. Emily suggested using visual cues instead, projecting simple symbols onto the Odyssey's exterior screens. To everyone's relief, the aliens responded in kind, mimicking the patterns and adding new ones of their own. With communication established, albeit rudimentary, the next step was boarding the alien ship. Alex piloted a shuttlecraft alongside Ryan and Samantha, leaving Emily behind to monitor the situation from the Odyssey. As they entered the alien vessel, they found themselves in a dimly lit corridor, the air thick with an unfamiliar scent. Every step echoed loudly, heightening the sense of vulnerability. Finally, they reached what appeared to be the main chamber. There, they encountered the alien family. Kayla stood protectively in front of her children, her posture tense but not aggressive. Joran remained slightly behind her, his gaze wary but resolute. The humans raised their hands slowly, palms open, signaling peace. Samantha stepped forward, holding out a small device that emitted a gentle hum, a universal gesture of goodwill. After a long pause, Kayla relaxed slightly, tilting her head as if studying them through gestures and trial and error exchanges. The humans learned the basics. The family was stranded, their ship unable to sustain them much longer. Their species had abandoned them, leaving them to die in the cold emptiness of space. Samantha examined Lyra, whose frail frame suggested illness, while Alex inspected the ship's failing systems. The situation was dire, but not hopeless. Back aboard the Odyssey, Emily greeted the family warmly, offering food and medical care. Though barriers of language and culture remained, trust began to form. For the first time in weeks, Kayla allowed herself to feel a glimmer of hope. These strangers, so different from her own kind, had chosen to help when everyone else had turned away. And as the Odyssey set course for Earth, carrying the alien family with it, the seeds of an extraordinary bond were planted, one that would challenge prejudices, defy expectations, and remind everyone involved of the power of compassion in an indifferent universe. The journey back to Earth aboard the Odyssey was both tense and hopeful. The alien family, still weak and wary, had been given a temporary shelter within the ship's medical bay. Kayla kept a close watch over her children, Torin and Lyra, while Joran remained silent but observant, his eyes scanning every corner of the unfamiliar craft. Though they were safe for now, their expressions betrayed a lingering fear of betrayal, fear of being abandoned again. For the human crew, the presence of the aliens brought a mix of excitement and uncertainty. Dr. Emily Carter spent hours trying to bridge the communication gap. She used gestures, drawings, and even simple objects like food and tools to convey meaning. Slowly, she began to understand bits of their language, a series of melodic tones that seemed to carry emotion as much as information. In return, Kayla and her family started mimicking some of Emily's words, though their voices sounded strange when attempting human speech. Torin, the older child, proved to be especially curious. He followed Alex Dawson around whenever he could, fascinated by the controls and screens in the cockpit. At first, Alex wasn't sure how to react. The boy's wide eyes and eager demeanor reminded him of his younger brother back home. But this was an alien, a creature from another world. Still, Alex found himself smiling as Torin pointed at the navigation panel and made soft chirping sounds, clearly asking questions. Using hand motions and exaggerated actions, Alex showed him how the ship worked, explaining concepts like thrust and gravity in the simplest terms possible. Samantha Brooks, meanwhile, focused on caring for Lyra, whose condition remained fragile. The young girl had been malnourished and exposed to poor environmental conditions for too long, leaving her body weak. Samantha administered treatments carefully, monitoring her progress with gentle patience. Over time, Lyra began to respond positively, her pale skin gaining a hint of color and her breathing becoming steadier. When Samantha offered her a small stuffed animal from the ship's supplies, a gift meant to comfort sick children, Lyra clutched it tightly, letting out a soft trill that sounded almost like laughter. Captain Ryan Hayes watched these interactions closely, feeling a mixture of pride and responsibility. He knew the decision to rescue the family had been controversial, even among his own team. Some members of Earth's government had already expressed concerns about bringing extraterrestrials into human territory. What if they're dangerous? One official had asked during a video call. What if they bring diseases or technology we can't handle? Ryan had countered those fears with logic and conviction. They're not dangerous, he'd said firmly. They're survivors. Their ship is broken, their species turned its back on them, and they've done nothing but ask for help. If we turn them away, what does that say about us? That we're no better than those who left them to die? Despite his confidence, Ryan couldn't ignore the weight of the situation. These weren't just passengers. They were representatives of an entirely different civilization. How humanity treated them would set a precedent, not just for future encounters with alien life, but for how humans viewed themselves as a species. Every interaction mattered, every gesture carried significance. It was a daunting thought, but also an inspiring one. As the Odyssey approached Earth, preparations were made for the family's arrival. A secure facility had been arranged where they could stay temporarily while scientists studied their biology and culture. Emily warned the others that this process needed to be handled delicately. We can't treat them like lab rats, she insisted. They're intelligent beings, not experiments. We have to earn their trust. When the ship finally landed, the scene outside was chaotic. News of the alien family's rescue had leaked to the public, sparking widespread debate. Crowds gathered near the facility, holding signs that ranged from welcoming messages like "We are all one" to angry slogans like "Keep Earth human." Reporters shouted questions at anyone who stepped outside, and online forums buzzed with speculation and conspiracy theories. Inside the facility, the tension was palpable. Armed guards stood at every entrance, ready to protect the family from potential threats. Scientists and diplomats arrived daily, eager to learn more about the aliens. Some came with genuine curiosity, while others seemed more interested in exploiting the situation for personal gain. Kayla and her family stayed close together, their earlier optimism fading under the scrutiny of so many unfamiliar faces. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day of tests and interviews, Emily sat down with Kayla in a quiet corner of the facility. Through their limited shared vocabulary and expressive gestures, Emily tried to explain why people were reacting so strongly. Humans are scared, she said slowly, placing a hand over her heart. Different is hard for us. But not everyone is afraid. Many want to help. Kayla tilted her head, considering the words. Then she placed her own hand over her chest and repeated the motion. Help, she murmured, her voice hesitant but clear. It was one of the first human words she had spoken, and it sent a shiver down Emily's spine. Progress was slow, but it was happening. Outside, the protests continued. Some groups argued that allowing the aliens to stay on Earth posed a risk to global security, while others believed it was humanity's duty to assist those in need. Political leaders debated endlessly, unable to reach a consensus. Meanwhile, mysterious figures began appearing near the facility, men and women in dark suits, watching silently from a distance. Their intentions were unclear, but their presence made Ryan uneasy. Late one night, As the facility grew quiet, Kayla confided in Emily about her growing unease. Using a combination of gestures and broken phrases, she explained that she feared for her children's safety. "Not safe here," she whispered, her large eyes filled with worry. Emily reassured her as best she could, promising that the crew would do everything in their power to protect them. But deep down, she shared Kayla's concerns. The longer the family stayed on Earth, the greater the risk became. Unknown to the humans, however, Kayla and Joran had begun discussing a plan of their own. They had seen enough of humanity to know that not all of them could be trusted. Yet, they also recognized kindness when they saw it in Ryan's steadfast leadership, in Emily's tireless efforts to communicate, in Alex's playful interactions with Torin, and in Samantha's gentle care for Lyra. These humans, despite their flaws, had shown them compassion when no one else had as days passed. The bond between the two species grew stronger. The humans learned more about the aliens' culture, a society built on harmony and cooperation, where individual needs were often sacrificed for the greater good. This explained why Kayla's people had abandoned them. Seeking aid during conflict went against their principles, marking them as outcasts. For the humans, this revelation was both heartbreaking and enlightening. It highlighted the complexity of morality and the dangers of rigid ideologies. But the clock was ticking. The longer the family remained on Earth, the more precarious their situation became. The mysterious agents lurking outside the facility grew bolder, their movements suggesting they were planning something. Inside, tensions mounted as the crew struggled to balance diplomacy with protection. Everyone knew that a decision would have to be made soon, and whatever choice they made would change the course of history. In the midst of uncertainty, one thing was clear: the alien family's fate was intertwined with humanity's. Whether they stayed or left, their story would serve as a testament to the choices people made when faced with the unknown. And for Ryan, Emily, Alex, and Samantha, those choices would define not only their mission, but the legacy of their species. The days turned into weeks, and the alien family's presence on Earth became a topic of global discussion. News outlets covered every detail, from their arrival to their daily routines in the secure facility. Some reports were factual, while others sensationalized the situation, painting the aliens as either saviors or invaders. Amidst the chaos, Kayla and her family tried to adapt to their new surroundings. Though the constant attention weighed heavily on them, Dr. Emily Carter spent most of her time with the family, working tirelessly to build trust and understanding. She brought books, toys, and other items she thought might interest them, hoping to create a sense of normalcy. Torin, the curious older child, was particularly drawn to anything mechanical. He loved watching Alex Dawson tinker with gadgets, mimicking his movements and occasionally surprising him with creative ideas of his own. One day, Alex handed Torin a small broken toy drone and showed him how to fix it. To everyone's amazement, Torin not only repaired it but improved its design, adding a feature that allowed it to hover longer. Alex grinned, patting the boy on the back. "Kid's got talent," he said to Emily later. "If he ever wants to be an engineer, I'll teach him everything I know." Lyra, the younger child, was slower to warm up but made steady progress under Samantha Brooks' care. Her health had improved significantly, and she now played quietly with the stuffed animal Samantha had given her. Sometimes she would sit beside Samantha, watching intently as the medic worked on medical equipment. When Samantha encouraged her to touch the tools or press buttons, Lyra's trilling laughter filled the room, bringing smiles to everyone's faces. Kayla and Joran, however, remained cautious. They observed the humans closely, trying to gauge their intentions. Through gestures and simple words, they began sharing stories about their home, a planet filled with vibrant colors and lush landscapes, where harmony reigned supreme. Emily listened carefully, jotting down notes and sketching diagrams based on their descriptions. She learned that their society valued unity above all else, prioritizing collective well-being over individual desires. This explained why they had been cast out. seeking help during a time of conflict went against their people's strict principles. Despite these revelations, tensions outside the facility continued to rise. Protesters gathered daily, their numbers growing larger and more vocal. Some groups argued that the aliens should be sent away immediately, claiming they posed a threat to humanity's safety. Others believed that helping the family was a moral obligation, a chance for humans to prove their capacity for compassion. The debate spilled into political arenas, with world leaders clashing over what to do next. Captain Ryan Hayes found himself caught in the middle, fielding calls from government officials who demanded answers he didn't have. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ryan met with his team in a private corner of the facility. "We can't keep this up forever," he said, running a hand through his graying hair. "Every day we stay here, the risk gets bigger. If those agents outside figure out a way in—" He trailed off, leaving the sentence unfinished, but the implication clear. Everyone knew what was at stake. Emily nodded, her expression troubled. "I agree, but we can't just send them away. Not after everything they've been through. We need to find another solution." Alex leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "What if we take them somewhere else? A neutral place where no one can bother them?" Samantha looked thoughtful. "It's risky, but it might work. If we can find a habitable planet or moon, they could start over without interference." Ryan considered the idea, weighing the pros and cons. It wasn't a perfect plan, but it was better than leaving the family stranded again. "All right," he said finally. "We'll prepare the Odyssey for another journey. In the meantime, we need to keep them safe. No matter what happens, we're not letting anyone take them." The decision brought a renewed sense of purpose to the crew. They began making discreet preparations, gathering supplies, and plotting potential destinations. Kayla noticed the change in their behavior and approached Emily one night. Using a mix of gestures and broken phrases, she asked, "You leave soon?" Emily hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. Finally, she nodded. "Yes, we're taking you somewhere safe." "Somewhere far from here." Kayla's eyes widened, and she placed a hand over her chest. "Safe?" she repeated softly. "Yes," Emily assured her. "Safe." Though Kayla seemed relieved, there was also sadness in her expression. Leaving meant saying goodbye to the humans who had shown them kindness, the ones who had refused to abandon them when others had. She glanced at Ryan, Alex, and Samantha, her gratitude evident even without words. As the preparations continued, the mysterious agents outside the facility grew bolder. Late one night, Ryan received a warning from an anonymous source within the Puntanfur Night government. A raid was planned for the following evening. The agents intended to seize the alien family and bring them to a secret location for experimentation. Time was running out. Ryan called an emergency meeting with his team. "We're leaving tonight," he announced. "No delays, no excuses. Pack only what's essential. Our priority is getting them out safely." The crew sprang into action, moving quickly and quietly to avoid detection. They helped Kayla and her family gather their few belongings, reassuring them that everything would be okay. As they made their way to the Odyssey, tension hung thick in the air. Every sound, every shadow felt like a potential threat. When they reached the ship, Alex took his place in the cockpit, his hands steady on the controls. Samantha guided Kayla and the children to their seats, ensuring they were secure. Ryan stood by the hatch, scanning the area one last time before sealing it shut. The engines roared to life, and the Odyssey lifted off, disappearing into the night sky just as armed operatives arrived at the facility dock. Back on the ground, the agents stormed the building, only to find it empty. Furious, they radioed their superiors, demanding answers. But high above the earth, the Odyssey soared onward, carrying its precious cargo toward freedom. Inside the ship, the mood was a mix of relief and apprehension. Kayla held Lyra close, her gaze fixed on the viewport as Earth shrank into the distance. Torrin sat beside Alex, his eyes wide with wonder as he watched the stars streak past. Samantha checked on the family periodically, offering reassurance with a smile and a gentle pat on the shoulder. Emily stayed busy reviewing star charts, searching for a suitable destination. Ryan addressed the group over the intercom. "We're heading to a nearby system," he explained. "There's a moon there that might work as a temporary home. It's uninhabited, but the conditions seem promising." No one spoke, but the weight of the moment hung heavy in the air. They were leaving behind the only world they'd ever known, venturing into the unknown once again. For the aliens, it was both terrifying and hopeful. For the humans, it was a reminder of the choices they had made and the responsibilities that came with them. As the Odyssey hurtled through space, the bond between the two species grew stronger. Despite their differences, they shared a common goal: survival. And though challenges lay ahead, they faced them together, united by acts of courage and compassion that transcended worlds. The Odyssey sailed through the vastness of space, its passengers bound by a fragile yet unbreakable bond. Kayla and her family sat quietly in the main cabin, their eyes fixed on the endless sea of stars outside the viewport. The children, Torin and Lyra, seemed mesmerized by the sight, their earlier fears giving way to awe. For the first time in weeks, they felt safe, or as safe as one could feel while fleeing across the galaxy. Ryan, Emily, Alex, and Samantha worked tirelessly to ensure their journey was smooth, each carrying the weight of what they had left behind. Back on Earth, news of the alien family's escape spread like wildfire. Governments scrambled to respond, some condemning the act as a breach of protocol, while others praised it as an act of humanity. Protesters returned to the facility, their signs now reading "Heroes," alongside angry demands for answers. Conspiracy theories multiplied online, fueled by rumors that shadowy organizations were still hunting the aliens. Despite the chaos, no one knew where the Odyssey had gone or if it would ever return. Inside the ship, life fell into a rhythm. Emily spent hours teaching Kayla and Jordan simple words in English, using pictures and gestures to bridge the language gap. Progress was slow, but steady. One day, Kayla surprised everyone by saying "thank you" in a soft, hesitant voice. The crew erupted into smiles, and even Jordan's stoic demeanor cracked slightly as he nodded in approval. These small victories reminded them why they had risked so much to connect, to understand, to help. Torin continued to thrive under Alex's guidance. The boy's fascination with technology grew daily, and he often joined Alex in the cockpit, watching intently as the pilot navigated the ship. Alex taught him how to read instruments and plot courses, explaining concepts like gravity wells and fuel consumption in terms Torin could grasp. Though the boy couldn't fully comprehend everything, his enthusiasm was infectious. One evening, as they reviewed a star chart together, Torin pointed at a cluster of stars and chirped excitedly. Alex chuckled, ruffling the boy's hair. "You'll make a great explorer someday," he said, though he wasn't sure Torin understood. Lyra, meanwhile, blossomed under Samantha's care. Her health had improved dramatically since leaving Earth, and she now played freely, her laughter filling the ship. She especially loved the stuffed animal Samantha had given her, clutching it tightly whenever she felt unsure. During quieter moments, Samantha showed Lyra how to use basic medical tools, letting her pretend to examine the crew. The little girl's trilling giggles brought lightness to the otherwise tense atmosphere aboard the Odyssey. As the days passed, Emily and Ryan studied potential destinations. They finally settled on a moon orbiting a gas giant in a nearby system. Initial scans suggested it had breathable air, water, and vegetation enough to sustain life temporarily. It wasn't perfect, but it offered hope. When Emily explained their plan to Kayla, the alien mother placed a hand over her chest and repeated the word "safe." Her expression was a mixture of gratitude and sadness, knowing this new place would be far from home. But the journey wasn't without challenges. Midway to their destination, the Odyssey encountered an asteroid field. Rocks of all sizes tumbled through space, forcing Alex to navigate carefully. The crew gathered in the cockpit, watching nervously as the ship dodged debris. At one point, a large asteroid grazed the hull, causing alarms to blare. Everyone held their breath until Alex skillfully maneuvered the ship clear of danger. When the immediate threat passed, Ryan clapped Alex on the shoulder. "Good work," he said simply. His voice heavy with relief. Another challenge came when the ship's power systems began to falter. Joran noticed strange humming noises coming from the engine room and alerted the crew. Together, Joran and Alex inspected the problem, communicating through gestures and trial and error. To everyone's surprise, Joran proved adept at understanding machinery, his hands moving deftly as he repaired damaged components. By the time they finished, the two men shared a look of mutual respect, bridging the gap between their species. In a moment of collaboration, despite these obstacles, the crew remained united. Each challenge brought them closer, strengthening the bond between humans and aliens. They shared meals, told stories, and laughed together, finding joy even in the smallest moments. One night, as they floated in zero gravity, Alex tossed a glowing orb back and forth with Torin, who squealed with delight. Kayla watched, her eyes shining with gratitude, while Samantha snapped a picture of memory of unity amid uncertainty. Finally, after days of travel, the Odyssey reached the moon. As they descended, landscape revealed itself, rolling green. Hills, shimmering lakes, and towering trees unlike anything on Earth. The sight took everyone's breath away. Even Kayla and Joran, who had seen countless worlds, looked awestruck. "Beautiful," Kayla whispered, her voice barely audible. They landed near a clearing surrounded by dense foliage. Stepping onto the surface, the crew helped Kayla and her family explore their new surroundings. Torin ran ahead, laughing as he chased a flock of bird-like creatures that darted through the sky. Lyra clung to Samantha's hand, her wide eyes taking in every detail. Kayla and Joran walked slowly, their expressions a mix of wonder and sorrow. This place was peaceful, but it wasn't home. Emily and Ryan set up temporary shelters using materials from the Odyssey, while Alex and Joran worked on repairing a damaged rover to aid in exploration. Samantha tended to Lyra, ensuring she adjusted well to the environment. Over the next few days, they explored the area, discovering edible plants, clean water sources, and signs of ancient ruins scattered across the terrain. Though uninhabited now, the moon bore traces of a long-lost civilization, hinting at mysteries waiting to be uncovered. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the landscape, Kayla approached Emily. Using gestures and broken phrases, she expressed her gratitude once more. "You save us," she said, placing a hand over her heart. "Never forget." Emily smiled, her eyes misty. "We'll never forget," she replied softly, "and neither will anyone else. What we've done here, it matters." Before departing, the crew left behind supplies, tools, and instructions to help the family adapt. They also recorded messages of peace from Kayla's family, hoping to share them with humanity someday. As the Odyssey prepared to leave, Kayla and her children stood side by side, waving goodbye. Their faces reflected both sadness and hope, knowing they had found allies in the most unexpected of places. As the ship ascended into the sky, Ryan addressed his team over the intercom. "We did something important today," he said. "Something bigger than ourselves. Not everyone would have made the same choice, but I'm proud of what we've accomplished." No one spoke, but the sentiment hung heavy in the air. They had faced fear, uncertainty, and opposition, yet they had chosen compassion. In doing so, they had proven that even in a vast and often cold universe, acts of kindness could create ripples of change. The Odyssey disappeared into the stars, carrying its crew back to Earth. But the story of the alien family and the humans who refused to abandon them would live on, a testament to the power of empathy and the courage to reach across divides. The Odyssey's return to Earth was met with a mix of anticipation and tension. As the ship descended through the atmosphere, Ryan Hayes sat in the cockpit, his hands gripping the controls tightly. He knew the moment they landed, their actions would come under intense scrutiny. The crew had defied orders, risked their careers, and angered powerful people all to save an alien family. Now, they had to face the consequences. When the ship touched down at the facility where it had all begun, reporters and officials swarmed the area. Cameras flashed, microphones were thrust forward, and voices shouted questions from every direction. Why did you take them? What are your intentions? Are they dangerous? The chaos was overwhelming, but Ryan remained calm. He stepped off the ship first, followed by Emily, Alex, and Samantha. Their faces were tired but resolute, their expressions speaking volumes about the weight of what they had done. Inside the facility, they were ushered into a conference room. Government leaders, military officers, and scientists waited for them, their expressions ranging from curiosity to disapproval. Ryan took a deep breath before beginning his explanation. He spoke clearly and confidently, laying out the events that had led to their decision to rescue the alien family. We didn't act out of rebellion or recklessness, he said. We acted because it was the right thing to do. They were abandoned, alone, and dying. If we turned our backs, we would have been no better than those who left them to suffer. Emily added her voice to the discussion, sharing details about the aliens' culture and their desperate situation. She described Kayla and Jordan's society, a world built on harmony and unity, and explained why they had been cast out. Her words painted a picture of beings not so different from humans, struggling to survive in a universe that often felt cold and indifferent. They trusted us when no one else would, she said softly. And we gave them a chance to start over. Isn't that what humanity is supposed to stand for? The room fell silent as her words sank in. Some of the officials shifted uncomfortably, while others nodded in agreement. Not everyone was convinced, but Ryan and his team had planted a seed of doubt in the minds of those who had opposed their mission. Slowly, the tone of the meeting shifted from accusation to reflection. Meanwhile, the mysterious agents who had tried to seize the alien family were called into question. Evidence emerged linking them to illegal experiments conducted on other extraterrestrial life forms. Public outrage grew as news of these atrocities spread, turning the tide of public opinion in favor of the Odyssey's crew. Protesters who had once demanded the aliens' removal now rallied behind them, holding signs that read "Compassion over fear" and "Humans helping aliens." In the days that followed, Ryan, Emily, Alex, and Samantha became symbols of hope and courage. Interviews aired on global networks, showing footage of their journey and highlighting moments of connection with Kayla and her family. Viewers watched as Torin laughed while learning the pilot simulators with Alex, as Lyra played with her stuffed animal under Samantha's care, and as Kayla expressed gratitude in broken English. These images resonated deeply, reminding people of the shared humanity or, perhaps, shared sentience that connected all living beings. But the crew didn't stop there. Determined to ensure the alien family's safety, they worked tirelessly to expose the truth about the shadowy organization responsible for the attempted raid. With help from allies within the government, they uncovered documents proving that the group had planned to exploit the aliens for advanced technology. The revelation shocked the world, sparking investigations and reforms aimed at preventing similar abuses in the future. As the dust settled, Ryan and his team received honors for their bravery. Awards were presented, speeches were given, and headlines praised them as heroes. Yet, none of this mattered as much to them as knowing they had made a difference. For Emily, it was the memory of Kayla saying, "Thank you" for the first time. For Alex, it was Torin's wide-eyed excitement as he learned about space travel. For Samantha, it was Lyra's laughter, pure and unguarded, filling the ship during their journey. And for Ryan, it was the knowledge that they had stood up for what was right, even when it was hard. Though the alien family was far away now, their impact on Earth was undeniable. Messages of peace recorded by Kayla and Jordan were broadcast across the globe, offering a glimpse into their world and their hopes for the future. Scientists studied the recordings, gaining insights into their language and culture. Artists created paintings inspired by descriptions of their vibrant home planet. Teachers used their story to teach children about empathy and cooperation. For Ryan and his crew, life eventually returned to some semblance of normalcy. They resumed their duties at the facility, though their perspectives had changed forever. Every time they looked up at the stars, they thought of Kayla, Joran, Torin, and Lyra, wondering how they were doing on their new moon. Were they thriving? Had they found peace? The questions lingered, unanswered but hopeful. One evening, months after their return, the crew gathered at a quiet cafe near the facility. They sat around a table, sharing stories and laughing about old memories. Emily pulled out her phone and showed them a photo she had taken during their journey, the one of Alex tossing the glowing orb with Torin. "This is my favorite picture," she said with a smile. "It reminds me of why we did what we did." Alex grinned, leaning back in his chair. "Kid's probably flying circles around that moon by now," he joked. "Bet he's teaching his sister everything I showed him." Samantha chuckled, sipping her coffee. "And I bet Lyra's still got that stuffed animal tucked under her arm," she added. "She wouldn't let go of it for anything." Ryan listened, quietly, a thoughtful expression on his face. When the conversation paused, he spoke up. "You know," he said, "we didn't just change their lives. They changed ours, too. We proved something to ourselves and to the rest of the world, that even in the darkest corners of space, kindness can light the way." No one argued with him. They all felt it, deep down. The experience had transformed them, opening their eyes to the beauty and complexity of the universe. It had shown them that despite differences in appearance, language, or origin, compassion was a universal language. And though their paths might never cross again, the bond they had formed with Kella's family would stay with them forever. As the night wore on, the group parted ways, each carrying a renewed sense of purpose. They knew the road ahead wouldn't always be easy. There would be challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. But they also knew they had faced adversity before and emerged stronger for it. Together, they had redefined what it meant to be human, not just as inhabitants of Earth, but as caretakers of a vast and wondrous cosmos. And somewhere, light years away, on a quiet moon beneath a starry sky, a family began to rebuild their lives, guided by the lessons of trust, resilience, and hope. Their story, intertwined with that of the humans who refused to abandon them, served as a reminder that even in the face of fear and uncertainty, acts of courage and compassion could bridge the widest divides. The moon where Kayla and her family had settled was unlike any place they had ever known. It was peaceful, untouched by the conflicts that had plagued their home planet. Rolling green hills stretched as far as the eye could see, dotted with strange trees whose leaves shimmered like silver under the light of the distant gas giant. Streams of crystal-clear water wound through the landscape, feeding into large, tranquil lakes. The air carried a faint sweetness, and the nights were filled with the soft glow of bioluminescent plants. For the first few days, the family explored cautiously, led by Joran, who took charge of ensuring their safety. Kayla stayed close to Torin, and Lyra, her protective instincts still strong despite the calm surroundings. They set up a temporary camp near a grove of trees, using materials left behind by the human crew. The shelters were simple but sturdy, designed to withstand the elements, until they could build something more permanent. Samantha's instructions on how to use the tools proved invaluable, and Joran quickly adapted to the task, his hands moving with precision as he assembled walls and roofs. Torin, however, couldn't sit still for long. His curiosity drove him to wander farther each day, exploring every corner of the moon. He discovered caves hidden beneath rocky outcrops, fields of glowing flowers that lit up at night, and even a herd of small, deer-like creatures that grazed near the lakeshore. Each discovery brought him back to the camp brimming with excitement, eager to share what he had found. One afternoon, he returned holding a smooth stone etched with intricate patterns. "Look," he chirped, showing it to his mother. Kayla examined it closely, her brow furrowing in thought. She recognized the markings. They resembled symbols from ancient stories told by their ancestors, tales of civilizations lost to time. Kayla shared her findings with Jorn later that evening. Together, they decided to investigate further. Early the next morning, they followed Torn's directions to the cave where he had found the stone. Inside, they discovered walls covered in carvings, images of beings similar to themselves, standing alongside other creatures with unfamiliar shapes. The artwork depicted scenes of cooperation and harmony, suggesting that the moon had once been home to a thriving community. Kayla ran her fingers over the carvings, feeling a deep connection to those who had come before. Perhaps this place wasn't just a refuge. Perhaps it held answers about their own past. Back at the camp, Lyra played quietly near the edge of the lake, her stuffed animal always within reach. She seemed content, her earlier fears replaced by a sense of wonder. Sometimes she would mimic the sounds of the alien birds flitting overhead or splash her hands in the water, giggling as ripples spread across the surface. Her laughter echoed through the valley, a sound that brought warmth to Kayla's heart. As the days turned into weeks, the family began adapting to their new environment. They learned which plants were safe to eat, how to filter water from the streams, and how to start fires using the tools provided by the humans. Jorn took on the role of hunter-gatherer, venturing into the wilderness to collect food and scout for potential dangers. Kayla focused on teaching Torn and Lyra practical skills, encouraging them to contribute to the household tasks. Slowly, they started to feel a sense of belonging, but challenges remained. The moon's weather was unpredictable, with sudden storms rolling in from the horizon without warning. One evening, dark clouds gathered overhead, and fierce winds swept across the landscape. Rain poured down in sheets, threatening to flood the camp. The family worked together to reinforce their shelters, piling rocks around the base to keep the water out. When the storm finally passed, they emerged soaked, but relieved, their bond strengthened by the shared struggle. During quieter moments, Kayla often thought about the humans who had saved them. She remembered Emily's patient explanations, Alex's playful interactions with Torrin, Samantha's gentle care for Lyra, and Ryan's unwavering determination to protect them. Their kindness had given her family a second chance, and she vowed never to forget it. Using the language lessons Emily had taught her, she practiced speaking English aloud, repeating phrases like thank you and safe. Though her pronunciation was imperfect, the effort filled her with pride. One day, while exploring a dense forest, Torrin stumbled upon something extraordinary, a structure half buried in the earth. It looked like the ruins of a building, its walls cracked and overgrown with vines. Intrigued, he rushed back to the camp to tell his parents. When Kayla and Jorn arrived, they realized the significance of the find. This wasn't just another artifact. It was evidence of an advanced civilization, one that had mastered architecture and engineering. Inside, they discovered remnants of technology, rusted metal pieces, fragments of circuit boards, and strange devices whose purpose they couldn't decipher. The discovery sparked a mix of emotions. On one hand, it offered hope that the moon had resources they could use to improve their lives. On the other, it raised questions about the fate of the civilization that had built these structures. What had happened to them? Had they thrived here only to vanish mysteriously? Or had they abandoned the moon, leaving it behind like Kayla's people had abandoned her family? Determined to learn more, Kayla and Jorn spent hours examining the ruins. They pieced together fragments of the technology, attempting to understand how it worked. Some parts were beyond repair, but others showed promise. With trial and error, they managed to restore a small device that emitted a faint hum when activated. Though they didn't know its function, the achievement gave them confidence. If they could unlock the secrets of this forgotten society, they might be able to create a better future for themselves. Meanwhile, Torrin continued to explore, bringing back treasures from his adventures. One day, he returned with a handful of seeds he had collected from a tree near the ruins. Kayla planted them near the camp, watering them carefully each day. To everyone's delight, tiny sprouts soon broke through the soil, growing rapidly into sturdy plants. The leaves shimmered like the ones on the trees, and when crushed, they released a pleasant aroma. The family celebrated the success, knowing they had taken another step towards self-sufficiency. As time went on, the moon became less of a temporary shelter and more of a home. The family grew stronger, their spirits lifted by the beauty of their surroundings and the knowledge that they were not alone in the universe. Even though they missed the humans who had helped them, they carried the memory of their kindness in everything they did. Every meal shared, every tool crafted, every laugh exchanged was a testament to the bond they had formed, a bond that transcended species and worlds. And so, life on the moon unfolded, full of challenges, but also full of promise. Kayla and her family faced each day with resilience, guided by the lessons they had learned from the humans and inspired by the possibilities of their new beginning. They knew the road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but they also knew they had the strength to overcome whatever came their way. For the first time in a long time, they felt truly safe and truly hopeful. Months passed on the moon, and Kayla's family settled into a rhythm of life that felt both new and familiar. The landscape around them had become a second home, its beauty woven into their daily routines. They woke each morning to the soft glow of the gas giant hanging in the sky, its light filtering through the shimmering leaves of the trees. By midday, they worked together, tending to their crops, repairing their shelters, and exploring the ruins for tools or knowledge left behind by the ancient civilization. Evenings were spent sharing stories around a crackling fire, their voices blending with the sounds of the alien night. Torn had grown bolder with time, venturing deeper into the wilderness and uncovering more secrets of the moon. He mapped out trails, marking past the hidden caves and lush valleys. One day, he returned to the camp with a discovery that took everyone's breath away: a cluster of metallic objects partially buried in the soil. They were unlike anything they had seen before, smooth, cylindrical shapes etched with glowing symbols. When Joran touched one, it emitted a low hum, vibrating softly in his hands. Though they couldn't decipher its purpose, the object seemed to pulse with energy, hinting at untapped potential. Kayla watched her son's excitement with pride, seeing glimpses of the explorer he was becoming. She remembered Alex's words during their journey aboard the Odyssey, how he had said Torn might make a great engineer someday. At the time, she hadn't fully understood what he meant, but now she saw it clearly. Her boy had a knack for solving problems, for piecing together fragments of the unknown until they made sense. It gave her hope not just for him, but for their future as a family. Lyra, too, had blossomed in ways Kayla hadn't imagined possible. Once frail and timid, she now moved with confidence, her laughter ringing out as she played among the glowing flowers near the lake. She had even begun mimicking Samantha's gestures, pretending to care for her stuffed animal as if it were a patient. Sometimes she would bring Kayla leaves or stones she found, explaining their uses in broken phrases she had learned from the humans. "Good," she would say, pointing to an edible plant. "Not good," she'd warn, holding up something sharp or thorny. Her progress reminded Kayla of how much they owed to the humans who had saved them, and how much they had taught her children. Joren, ever the protector, focused on ensuring their safety. He patrolled the area regularly, studying the behavior of the local wildlife and learning which creatures posed threats. He also experimented with the remnants of technology they had salvaged, trying to adapt them for practical use. One breakthrough came when he managed to repurpose a piece of equipment into a tool that could purify water more efficiently. It wasn't perfect, but it worked well enough to save time and effort. For the first time since leaving their old life behind, Kayla saw a spark of optimism in her mate's eyes. Despite their progress, the family never forgot the humans who had risked everything to help them. Kayla often spoke about Ryan, Emily, Alex, and Samantha, sharing memories of their kindness with Torn and Lyra. She told them how the humans had refused to abandon them, even when others had turned away. "They showed us trust," she said. One evening, her voice steady despite the emotion in her words. And because of them, we are here. Encouraged by these reflections, Kayla decided to create something permanent, a way to honor the bond they had formed with the humans. Using materials scavenged from the ruins and leftover supplies from the Odyssey, she began crafting a monument. It started as a simple structure, a circle of stones arranged in the clearing near their camp. But as days went by, she added details, carvings inspired by the ancient symbols they had found, trinkets like the glowing orb Torin had played with, and even small replicas of Earth's continents, drawn from descriptions Emily had shared. When it was finished, the monument stood as a testament to gratitude and connection, a bridge between two worlds. One night, as the family gathered around the completed monument, Kayla addressed her children. "This is for them," she said, gesturing toward the stars. "For the ones who helped us when no one else would. We will remember them always." Her words resonated deeply, not just with Torin and Lyra, but with Joran as well. Together, they placed offerings at the base of the monument, fruits from their garden, feathers from the bird-like creatures, and a polished stone engraved with the word "thank you" in English. It was a humble gesture, but it carried immense meaning, a promise to carry forward the lessons of compassion and cooperation they had learned. As weeks turned into months, the family continued to thrive. Their crops flourished, providing enough food to sustain them through the changing seasons. The ruins yielded more treasures, some of which they managed to repair and integrate into their daily lives. A device that generated heat became a source of warmth during chilly nights, while another produced faint light, illuminating their shelters. Each success brought them closer to self-sufficiency, reinforcing their belief that they could build a future here. But Kayla knew their story wasn't just about survival, it was about legacy. She wanted to ensure that the values they had embraced, harmony, resilience, and empathy, would endure beyond their lifetimes. To that end, she began teaching Torin and Lyra not only practical skills, but also the importance of kindness and unity. "We were cast out," she explained, "because we sought help. But seeking help is not weakness, it is strength. And helping others is the greatest gift we can give." Her teachings resonated with the children, especially Torin, who dreamed of one day reaching out to other beings in the universe. "Maybe we can find more friends," he said one evening, his eyes sparkling with determination. "Like the humans." Kayla smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Perhaps," she replied. "But first, we must be strong. We must learn, grow, and protect this place. Then, when the time is right, we can share our story." Back on Earth, Ryan and his crew kept tabs on the moon whenever possible, using telescopes and satellite data to monitor its condition. Though they couldn't visit again anytime soon, they took comfort in knowing that Kayla's family was safe. Messages recorded by the aliens were broadcast globally, inspiring countless people with tales of courage and cooperation. Artists painted murals of the family standing alongside their human rescuers, while scientists studied their language and culture, eager to learn more. The impact of their mission extended far beyond the immediate outcome. Governments enacted reforms to prevent abuses against extraterrestrial life, and organizations dedicated to peaceful interstellar relations gained momentum. Humanity's perspective shifted, opening doors to new possibilities for collaboration and understanding. For Ryan, Emily, Alex, and Samantha, the experience remained a defining chapter in their lives. They often spoke of Kayla, Joran, Torin, and Lyra, imagining how they were doing on the distant moon. "They're survivors," Alex would say with a grin. "If anyone can make it work, it's them." And indeed they did. On the quiet moon beneath the starry sky, a family rebuilt their lives, guided by the lessons of trust, resilience, and hope. Their story served as a reminder that even in the vastness of space, acts of courage and compassion could bridge the widest divides. As they looked up at the stars each night, they knew they were part of something greater, a tapestry of connections stretching across galaxies. uniting all who dared to reach out and help one another.